Hi everyone, so today I want to show you something different. Path of Exile 2. This is something I've played at Gamescom. I made my Gamescom wrap-up video the other day. You might have seen that, and I talked about, I will release another video about more details about Path of Exile 2. This is going to early access in middle of November, so around 5-6 weeks after the D4 expansion, and a lot of people are eagerly anticipating this release, which is probably going to be sometime in spring or so next year. So it's looking like a really fun game, and I want to show you a little bit like what I've done here, like the classes I played. I've been mostly focusing on the Mercenary, the Warrior, and the Monk. There were not all of the classes available in this client. I've played it for like 3-4 hours or something like that in total, and I have, some recordings here, and I didn't actually manage to record all of it, but it was really fun, really interesting. And I think a lot of people are gonna have a blast with this. So I just want to give you my kind of experience here, and then also just show you some extra gameplay that I'll just let run basically after my introduction here. So I've been playing the Mercenary. That's the one that you see here right now. This was the first class I tried out because also like the one that kind of resonates the most with me outside of the Huntress and the Ranger. I play Rogue, I play Demon Hunter, I like the ranged stuff in general, and those were pretty cool classes to play. I've tried the WASD controls that is coming to PoE 2 as well. So you see this here as well, like I'm moving around with, just trying to move away from the enemies while shooting at them. So they have some pretty nice technology there where you can like move in one direction and shoot in the other. And that actually works really well. This really seems designed for a class like the Mercenary, where you can just change your ammunition and then you just right click at the enemy, and then you just have like different types of ammunition that you load into your crossbow that is basically more like a machine gun or a shotgun. So it feels like you're playing a shooter rather more than an ARPG. But it works really well for this class. I've tried this as well with some of the other classes, for example the Monk, where I was a melee character, and WASD didn't feel as comfortable there, I gotta say. But I guess you might get used to it. It seems like they really want to make everything in the game based around WASD movement, and this is something that I think not everyone will really enjoy necessarily, especially for the more melee-oriented characters. For the ranged and for like the slow-paced combat that you see right now, it does seem fine, but I kind of have my reservations about it still, despite actually using WASD a lot in Diablo already, for example. I just think that the control scheme is not really that suitable, but we'll see how this will play out. I just think that especially once stuff speeds up in a later game, like this is very slow right now, we have no movement speed, we have no attack speed and so on. But imagine, double or triple the speed or something like that, depending on how fast this can go. It will actually be quite difficult to control your character properly with WASD and mouse and keyboard together, I think. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll be surprised, or maybe the numbers are just very low in general. So maybe there's like, super low caps on, any kind of speed buffs, for example. But it's Path of Exile, so I'll be surprised. But other than that, I gotta say, it was really cool. I really enjoyed the combat. The graphics look amazing. So this definitely looks like basically Diablo 4 quality, I guess, in terms of graphics. They seem fairly similar to me on that regard. The combat is also very nice because a lot of the enemies actually are pretty tough. So this is something that a lot of other people have also said in the past when they played the game for the first time. Like a lot of content creators were invited, including myself, for example, to the Los Angeles event some months ago. I didn't go myself, but the general consensus was it was pretty tough to even get, out of Act 1 or something, or even beat bosses in Act 1. And that is certainly true. I would say the game is relatively tough at the start. It wasn't really like a problem for me, I would say, but I'm also like a very seasoned RPG blaster. So, I was not really expecting a huge obstacle or something like that. I think I died once somewhere or twice, maybe. I remember like one time I died to some bug on the boss where I just got one tap by nothing. But yeah, you can die very easily. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. The game is very slow at the start, and that might speed up a bit over time, but we don't really know about the end game just yet. So it might be really fast, it might be crazy like PoE 1, but I don't really expect that. I think it's going to be more in the pace of like what D4 is like right now. D4 has also sped up quite a lot. But I think actually for launch, it might even be slower than that. If you know Path of Exile 1, you'll certainly be familiar with Path of Exile 2 immediately. There's a lot of similarities in, for example, the item system, the skill system, the passive tree. Looks overall very similar, so it still has this massive passive tree with like 1,000 nodes or however many that is, and that has not really fundamentally changed. Some stuff has moved around, and there's like some new stuff, some other stuff has disappeared, and so on, but it's largely similar. And also the skill system is similar to Path of Exile 1. The way that works is that you have main skills, like skill gems, actually active skill gems they're called, and then they have support gems. And you can have up to 5 support gems linked to a same active skill. And this means that you can change how they work, you can change their behavior, you can give them like, extra effects or just more damage. So there's like lots of stuff where you can like alter how a skill functions. You can, for example, add extra projectiles, you can add extra chaining, you can, make the AoE larger, you can add a chill effect, all these kind of things, yeah. So this is pretty much similar to what it was in PoE 1, which is a very good skill system. It allows a lot of customization, and I think that similar to PoE 1, you're gonna have like a lot of really wild builds when the time comes. So especially like I imagine with like, extra uniques coming in. I haven't really found any crazy items while I was playing this demo now. Even at like level 20 or level 30 or so, I'm not sure what was the highest level character that I've managed to play in this demo. There were like some preset characters basically throughout various steps of the campaign. And most of my gear was still blue items, yeah, magic items. Then there's rare items, and then there's also like uniques, for example, that will probably have like some kind of special effects and allow certain combos to flourish. But I didn't actually see any of them. So we'll see, but I do expect there's going to be a lot of build customization in this game, just because of the skill system, because of the passive tree. The entire passive tree is open to all the classes. They just have different starting points, and then they have different ascendancies, which are basically subclasses that specialize a little bit. But technically, you can play anything with any of the classes and can do some really wacky stuff. So this is how PoE 1 works, and that is also unchanged in PoE 2. So in my honest opinion, if you are expecting that PoE 2 will be much more welcoming and much more accessible to newcomers to the PoE franchise at this point, I think this might not work out too well. I think the complexity of the game is going to be comparable to PoE 1, maybe not as large on launch, but I do expect that they're gonna pump a lot of resources into Path of Exile, with like the first leaks especially, and then comes first expansions and whatever. So I expect this to go a pretty similar route to what we have seen in the last year of Diablo 4, for example, where the game started and stuff was rough, and then throughout the first patches gonna be pretty major adjustments. Maybe not as major as they were in D4. I think that the PoE 2 devs have like a much more solidified vision of the game. And that seems to be, very like welcoming as well. But on the other hand, the vision is that it's going to be slow, it's going to be tough, it's going to be grindy, and not necessarily, the thing that a lot of people are hoping for. So personally, I know I will have a lot of fun in this game. It just seems very nice. I like this, kind of more slow-paced gameplay. I like the more difficult boss fights, and even like normal monsters can be dangerous to you, at least in the early game. And I really enjoyed that, to be honest. So you had to really like try to, make use of the combos that were available to your class. So in the case of the Mercenary, I tried to, for example, throw those grenades with my grenade launcher and then kite the enemies into that. Or you had like some armor breaking ammunition. So you shot into the enemy and then broke the armor, and then you can follow up with like some heavy shot that deals extra damage when the armor is broken, and you would just like pump down elites with like one tap or something. But you have to play around these kind of combos, and it's similar for the other classes. So for example, on the warrior, I was I had like an infernal cry that applies like a debuff to enemies, and then when you kill enemies, then they will explode, and there's like a chain reaction going off basically, a bit like exploding palm or shadow imbuement, if you know that from D3 or D4. That was pretty fun. And every class seems to have these kind of combos as well. On the monk, I think it was the most noticeable actually, where you need to generate power charges by using like a culling skill. There's like some, if enemies are below 20% HP, you can cull them, and then you get a power charge. And then on the next main attack, it will be like supercharged, and you will spend this power charge, and it will just hit the entire screen and basically one-tap everything. So that was kind of wild, the difference between doing the combo versus not doing it properly. And it actually really felt rewarding for doing it. But on the other hand, it will mean you have to pay a lot of attention. It will be, more slow paced, as I mentioned, and you really have to play around these kind of combos. Maybe these one-button builds that we are used to from PoE 1 will be a thing at some point. I guess a lot of people will certainly try to make something like that, but it certainly looks like the potential is not really there, at least from what I can tell from the early game stuff. But this might change. I would be surprised that there's no options to play like one-button builds. That might be maybe mildly weaker than, some kind of combo builds. But at least in the early game, that didn't seem to be the case at all. But it also makes the combat just feel a lot more alive. I really enjoyed that with, like the kind of like thinking, what do I do? Where do I position myself? You can get blocked by monsters very easily. So you have to try to, make sure you don't get cornered or something like that. There's this dodge roll. You can use it as much as you want, but it doesn't actually phase you for enemies. So you can still get blocked and not roll out of a pack, for example. So you have to be aware of that and try to kite enemies together, do your big AoE nuke, and then, rush to the boss. And there's a lot of focus on boss fights in the campaign, it seems. The boss fights are really cool, actually. Like, even the Act 1 bosses feel like really fleshed out encounters, like with bosses that have potentially multiple phases, that have multiple abilities. You have to dodge them, and then, there's like a lot of stuff going on. So they're just kind of like early game bosses, but they feel like end game bosses. So that was really well done, I think. The boss fights were all really cool, but they're also all really long and relatively tough. So some of these boss abilities can hit you for like, half of your life or even more in some cases. And you only have limited healing, for example. You can't really just get out and then, refresh and all that. So you have to be aware with your life flasks, for example, or you have to have some healing in your setup. I noticed, for example, I had like 1.5% life regeneration per second or something at some point from investing a few points on my passive tree. And that helped so tremendously in those boss fights because I could just take chip damage and slowly out heal it. And that was suddenly easy mode. So it can be like these little differences in a build that actually has a huge impact in some setups. And I imagine that, once you actually get more combos, once you actually have more synergies on your tree, on your items, I guess stuff will change a little bit. But yeah, even all the way to like level 20 something or so from the highest level character that I've played in this demo, it did feel relatively similar to what I described, like slow, difficult, and you have to be very, very careful when you actually fight those bosses. And you fight them a lot. So a lot of zones have a boss of their own. Almost every zone, I believe, has like some boss somewhere, even an optional or a mandatory boss. And there are actually multiple minute fights. So if you are eventually speedrunning this campaign, I think this will actually be some kind of, half the time or something will be just boss fights. This is like how I expect this to go. Because you just kind of like rush through the zone, AoE down some packs, and then you have boss fights. And then you go to the next zone, and the same story there. So this is kind of how I expect that to go. Maybe not for your first character, because you're going to explore, and, you're going to struggle enough against the normal monsters. But I guess for, let's say, Season 3 of PoE 2 or something like that, I think this is kind of how that's going to go. At least from my perspective right now. Now, the last thing I want to discuss before I leave you with the rest of the video to just watch the gameplay is how will PoE 1 players receive the game. And I think there is actually going to be a pretty huge disconnect between the PoE 1, like current like blaster community, let's say, and the, let's say, new PoE 2 player base. I'm sure that a lot of people, for example, might switch over from Diablo 4 or Diablo 2 or what else they might be playing at this point. Some people will switch from PoE 1 to PoE 2, or they will play both. I guess the idea for GGG is that they actually, cycle the seasons so that people play PoE 1 and PoE 2, and they're like very different games. PoE 1 is like hyper, saturated game, let's say, that is like, this Omega Blaster, super power creep, really fast action kind of game. And then we have PoE 2 that's like pretty much the opposite end of the spectrum. This is like the Elden Ring of ARPGs, kind of, I would say. Very slow, very tough. Every monster matters, kind of. So this is how that's gonna go, I think. And I do expect that, eventually power creep settles in and stuff is gonna ease up a little bit in PoE 2. But it definitely looks like it's gonna be on the tough side of ARPGs and the more complicated side, no matter what. So in my book, I'm not sure how this will work out exactly for GGG, but I am positive that at least the, like people that really like to dive deep and that, really like to optimize their character and like have like a really long grind and, these kind of things that really like this long and slow progression, they will really enjoy this. It will probably remain kind of tough for like the more casual audience. So I'm curious to see how this will actually be received, you know, in terms of the masses that just want to like log in and blast something. I think a lot of them will still stick to Diablo 4 when it comes to that. And yeah, we'll see. But the good news is that as far as I know, PoE 2 is going to be free to play, just like PoE 1. And this means that anyone can just jump in and try it out and see if it's something for them, or maybe just play it, you know, a little bit here and there. I'm certainly excited to try out the early access as soon as possible. So this will be like in mid-November, as I said, which is relatively early still with the D4 expansion. But I will definitely jump in. I want to see, you know, what is the end game like, and then, you know, slowly prepare. And also for the launch, of course, I would be very excited to participate in like a world first race on hardcore and these kind of things. So I would like to prepare for that over the early access period. This is what I got for now. So hope you enjoyed my little preview of PoE 2. I'll keep you guys posted whenever there's any news, and you know, when the early access comes, expect a lot of content here on my channel. So this is kind of like the the preview of some days to come, let's say. And with that, I'm going to leave you with the rest of the video. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time.
Take this! Not yet! Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Need a sec. Eat this! Not yet! That's one down. in their tracks! Surprise! Fire in the hole! Stop them in their tracks! Eat this! Fire! Close and personal. That'll not show me up. Eat this! So the hooded one was right. They lost their minds. Eat this! Stop them in their tracks!
escape again.
Great Wolf, take you bastard!
Eat this! It's that bastard that tried to hang me. Piercing shot!
Get down here! Be crushed! The guillotine drops.
Piercing shot!
Down here!
Break their armor! I would say it's just business. wonders and horrors.
Third Pact speaks of this. I'm not supposed to be here. By the dreamer. By the dreamer.